Does every game need to be 20 plus hours? This is an interesting one. Does every game need to be 20 plus hours? I'm obviously going to say no. Not every game needs to be that. A great recent example, according to the community, Callisto Protocol was a game that was not that long, and it didn't really need to be. Pretty much horror games don't need to be that long. However, I remember the community not really liking how short Resident Evil 3's remake was, because that one was like 6 hours, in some cases 4 hours on your first playthrough. Yeah. So that might be a little too short. I'm going to make it a slight controversial. Not really. I don't think it's controversial, but it's going to lead into what's like your third question here. But I do think that if the game is going to be at full price at launch, it probably should be 20 plus hours. If you're going to charge $70, I kind of feel like it should be. So
that's where my personal issue falls under it, where I don't think every game needs to be more than 20 hours. Like, so I'm a fan of the Ratchet and Clank series. I don't want to play that for over 20 hours of like a story. I want the solid story as it is. I don't need everything to be like, 20 plus hours. And I feel like when you start hitting 20 plus hour territory, you're also hitting like open world territory sometimes and things like that. Like, it needs things that will reasonably stretch it out. And I feel like sometimes open world ruins certain games, especially if the game should be story focused, because then you're just doing kind of this extra stuff for no reason. So I don't think every game needs to be more than 20 hours, which is where there is an issue with the price. But I guess we can talk about the middle question before we really dive into the price one and why I asked these two first.
Well, real quick before we do that, I think I just wanted to mention Ratchet and Clank might be a very good example for this, because that one was one of the first games that launched where it was full $70, but at the same time, I believe the actual story itself is in that 8 to 10 hour range. So that would be an example of where I think it was probably a little overpriced for what you get. And at the same time, I'm not mad at it for being shorter. I just think it was probably overpriced. And I had other gripes with it that didn't have anything to do with the price. But that one was probably this past holiday season, Black Friday, when it was like at 30. I think that was a reasonable price for it. I think that should have been, if you hadn't played it, like I had played it and platinumed it already by that time. So I was like, I might just wait, because I don't really need to buy this. Maybe I'll wait. I might wait the full generation, let them just sort of give it away, because I got the platinum for it. For anybody wondering, it's like I actually went to a library and I rented it for free. But that's a good example of the
library.
Yeah, the library came in clutch. I will be going back there, or actually by the time this recording comes out, I probably already would have went and got Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, the game that does not run that well on Switch. And so from the community, it's not really worth it because of the performance. And so it's like, well, that's where the library comes in clutch. I expect to rent it probably up to 3 times at most, because I don't want to rush too much. And I don't mind giving it back real quick and going back and getting it later before Tears of the Kingdom comes out, which is like all the way in May. But not every game needs to be 20 plus hours, in my opinion. That's what I would say.